Hello guys and welcome back to another video. I hope that you are all good and thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new here, thank you for being here, and if you've been here, well, thank you for returning. I really appreciate it. So today's video is going to be some tips on how to lose fat and build muscle. This is probably what I work with the majority of clients on. I'd say pretty much like about 89% of my one-to-one coaching inquiries, this is the goal, and a lot of what I get asked about on social media, this is the goal, and certainly not a bad goal to have. Absolutely, you know, important not to solely focus on the aesthetics of things, but definitely nothing wrong with having an aesthetic goal. And I think to want to build muscle and be strong and do things in a healthy way is really important. So I want to go through my top 5 tips to help you with this. Sorry if you can hear the dogs in the background. I feel like they breathe so much louder than Wesley because they're so big, but they are sat right next to us. A little snooze. I'm still dog sitting at my dad's house. So yeah, like I say, I want to start with my top 5 tips. So number 1 tip would be to either eat at maintenance calories or in a very, very small surplus. This is going to help you to lose fat but not be in too big of a deficit to build muscle. Sitting at around maintenance will help with body recomposition, where basically when you're losing fat and building muscle, your body shape will change. So also important to remember with this, the scales might not drastically change, but that's not the aim here. Remembering that the scales measure so much more than fat. They also measure muscle, and if you want to build muscle, it's important to keep in mind that the scales going up or not really moving isn't a bad thing. In a way that kind of, I don't know if it's like, it's not the scientific way to explain it, but when you are losing fat but almost replacing it with muscle. Now that's not what happens. You don't actually replace the lost fat with muscle. However, you know, you hear a pound of muscle and a pound of fat. Obviously they weigh the same, they're a pound. However, muscle takes up less space, so your body shape will get smaller and change your body composition when you lose fat and build muscle. So like I say, it's not the best way to explain it, but if you think about like losing the fat and putting the muscle in that place, your body shape will look completely different. I hope that makes sense. I feel like it makes sense in my head, and it's kind of, it like helps me, or helped me initially when I was moving away from the scales. So tip 1, like I say, would be to eat at maintenance or in a very, very small deficit, like literally like 100, 200 calories deficit from your maintenance. And I have a free calorie calculator on my website if you want to use that to work that out, to have a good little starting point there. So next tip would then be to follow a program with progressive overload. I can't stress this enough. Doing random workouts and, you know, just doing whatever each day, each week, nothing wrong with that if your goal is to just be fit and healthy and move your body. Like, all movement is good, but if you're not lifting weights at least sort of 3 times a week and progressively overloading, by that I mean either lifting slightly heavier, adding more reps, slowing down the tempo for more time under tension, or adding pauses and pulses for more time under tension. If you're not doing these things each week, it's going to be, basically, you're not going to build muscle. So that is going to defeat the goal with that. So really important. I know it's boring and it can feel boring. I mean, to be honest, I don't find it boring. I used to think that it was a boring concept way back when, before I kind of got into the my fitness journey. But once I started seeing like the changes and the progress and the results, actually it's really satisfying, and it is a bit of a delayed satisfaction because it isn't a delayed gratification. You know, it's not going to happen instantly, and it's important to manage your expectations with that. However, it feels even more satisfying when it pays off, if that makes sense. So yeah, really important that you're following a program with structure. Again, these workouts don't need to be like crazy, like long, intense workouts. Like even just having 4 exercises that you're going to execute well and progress with each week is more than enough. So yeah, that would be tip 2, to follow a strength program with progressive overload. You can include a bit of cardio in there for your cardiovascular health, and even if you want to include like Pilates or whatever it might be around that, absolutely do that. But again, making sure that you're following that program, and also making sure that you're getting enough rest. I don't know if this counts as this is a bonus tip, but any good training program will have enough rest in. This is when your body repairs, your muscles repair and grow, and it's really important to not like burn yourself out, both physically and mentally. So making sure you get enough rest in there as well. So yes, tip 3 would be to focus on your protein goal. I know that everybody like hammers on about this, but it is really important. Aiming for around 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kg of body weight. Again, really important that you eat enough protein. This will help your muscles to repair. Like I just mentioned there, along with rest, your body needs protein as part of that to help your muscles repair. So essentially when you are lifting weights, you are tearing the muscle. When you eat protein, the protein, if you imagine it going into the crack of the tear, so that helps your muscle to get bigger over time, if that makes sense. Again, like that's not science, but it's a good way to kind of visualize it for me anyway, as a visual person. And that is like, you know, over time, your muscle's gonna grow. So really important that you're hitting that protein goal. Nothing wrong with getting this from like protein powders and stuff, but I would recommend to try and get most of this from like whole foods. Obviously if you're veggie or vegan, you may have to get some of that from your protein powders and stuff and your supplements. That is okay, but trying to get a balance across the board. And this leads us on nicely to tip 4 is to have a good balance and not restrict. Eating certain foods or food groups isn't going to stop you from losing fat, so do not fear carbs. Carbs are the building block. You need them for building muscle just as much as you need protein, and also fats as well. Again, eating fats won't stop you from losing fat. Fats are needed for nutrient absorption. They're also a source of energy, and they're also important for hormone production. If you're not eating enough fats, your body's going to not be able to get the nutrients that it needs, and you're not going to feel good, and then that's going to impact your energy, your mood, and all this sort of stuff. So it can have a really negative knock-on effect. But again, with carbs, repeating myself, carbohydrates as well, really important. They are your main energy source, and you want to have a good quality. It was all too good to be true. The dogs were being so well behaved. God forbid somebody walks past the door. Oh, here's Lulu. Lulu. Hello, girlie. Yeah, hello. So yes, carbs, very important for building muscle and for giving you energy. I think I was just about to say about making sure that you have carbs before you work out, even like a light snack. I train at 6 a.m. and I make sure that I have something light still. I normally get the gym between 6 and half 6. So about 5:30, I'll either have banana with some honey, or banana and honey on rice cakes, or even just some dates. And appreciate that it can be really hard to eat early in the morning. But they're things that are quite light for me to get in. But if you're training later in the day, and again, you don't want to feel too heavy, those things would be just as good to have around 30 to 60 minutes before your workout, and you're going to get a better quality workout when you've got the energy to do so. You know, you can have all these like highly caffeinated drinks, coffee, whatever, but they're a stimulant, so they're not going to actually give you energy like what carbohydrates would. So by all means, include your caffeine drink or coffee if that's what you want to do, but I would really recommend to do that with some carbohydrates as well. I feel like you'll really see the difference. So yeah, that would be tip 4. And then tip 5, which I suppose kind of links in with my bonus tip about resting, is sleep and stress management. Getting enough sleep, having enough rest, having enough recovery is really important. And again, like managing stress, really important for your overall health, like your mental health as well. So you're not going to feel depleted. I'm sure if you can cast your mind to a time where you felt really stressed, or if you're feeling it right now, I hope you're not. But you know, if you have been really stressed, you'll kind of remember how depleted you felt, how actually physically tired it makes you, which again is going to be really difficult to you know, have good quality workouts and to be able to show up for yourself. It's going to decrease your motivation, which isn't always going to be there anyway, but it's going to be a lot harder to kind of push through that when you're feeling like really like depleted mentally and physically. And obviously just, you know, again, on your mental health, it's really important to try and manage stress as best you can, and having that sleep as well. And also getting enough sleep will help to keep your hunger hormones nice and balanced. If you're not having enough sleep, it can offset your hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, and basically these two hormones tell you when you're hungry and tell you when you're full. But when you don't get enough sleep, it basically sends them the opposite way, so you never feel full and you always feel hungry. So really important that you're getting enough sleep, just to also help with that, to make life a little bit easier. As I say, if you're only in a small deficit, you shouldn't feel too hungry. The aim of being in, like, losing fat or being in a deficit isn't to feel hungry or feel starving. But as I say, if you're not getting enough sleep, your body's not getting that chance to recover, repair, and then it can just have a negative knock-on effect and make things a lot more difficult for you. So that would be like the final tip, like rest, sleep, and stress management to allow your body to recover. And as I say, that's where the magic happens in terms of building. And also worth mentioning, like chronic stress, ongoing stress will increase your cortisol, which is your stress hormone. The cortisol hormone, sorry, which is your stress hormone, is what I meant to say there, which can have an impact on fat loss and muscle growth. So again, really important. But as I say, ultimately, like, yes, like this is looking at this from an aesthetic point of view, but also looking at how you're going to feel mentally as well. Really important to be nailing these basics. So brief overview. Number one, eating at maintenance or in a small calorie deficit. There's a free online calculator on my website, which is linked in my profile. Number two, make sure you are following a program with progressive overload, training 2-3 times a week with compound lifts, some isolation in there as well, and not overdoing it. Number three is to eat enough protein, 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Number four, don't restrict, aim for an 80-20 balance, 80% whole foods, 20% soul foods, not skipping any food groups. Make sure you're eating your carbs for a good amount of energy. Make sure you're eating your fats for hormone production, nutrient absorption. And number five, make sure you're getting enough rest, enough sleep, and stress management to feel good and to enhance your physical progress. So that is it, guys, in a kind of brief nutshell. I really hope that this helps wherever you are on your journey, whether you're just getting started or you've been on it a little while but feel a bit lost and that's kind of what you want to achieve. As I say, this is the thing I'm asked about the most, so I thought it would be good to just have a sit down chat. And as I've mentioned before, I love doing these sit down chats and just kind of giving you help and advice as if we're just having a little cut and a chat together. This is like one of my favourite styles of video to do, so I hope that you have enjoyed this. Any questions, please pop them below. There's Wesley barking again. We nearly got through it again. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next one.